Do you think there is any feasible solution for the immense ballooning of development times? What can be done to make games in less time without sacrificing quality? There's sort of like a few different levers to be messed with at any given time to affect the output of a game studio. You can either spend more time with the same number of developers, the same tool sets and everything, and that will balloon the budget, but hopefully lead to a higher quality product. You can balloon the number of people working, but keep the amount of time the same. That will also get you a bigger, potentially better game because there's more work being put into it. But again, cost will increase. And the other side is like you could try to come up with more advanced tools, or you could try to come up with better technology or outsourcing or things like that that could potentially streamline things a little bit, but that also has costs associated with it. So really at the end of the day, like to reduce cost, you have to drop one of those levers. You have to reduce the number of people working on it, the time or the compensation of those people working on it, pay them less. And none of those is a great solution, and none of those solutions generally lead to higher quality, right? Like you can pay people less, but more money tends to attract the better talent. So less money will attract greener talent, fresher talent that is not as experienced and maybe won't be able to put out as high quality of a product at the end of the day. So that's a problem. You can cut development time and shorten it up, but that also has other cascading consequences where it's like, okay, either you're going to deal with crunch or we're going to deal with like tighter scope. The game has to be smaller because we don't have as much time to work on it. And that also for a lot of people would represent a drop in quality as well. So there's no magic solution to just wave a wand and now games are cheaper. In some cases, I think there is a little bit of like executive cannibalization of budgets, and there's inefficiencies that are present because of mismanagement. And that's something we've seen time and time again with games that are just mismanaged and they take twice as long. Like how Concord took 8 years to make from ideation to release is insane to me. Like I don't know how you could spend 8 years on such a mediocre thing, but they did. And I think it was because of mismanagement. I think it's because they didn't have anybody coming in there and slapping them upside the head and being like, no, we put this out now because if we spend too much time on it, there's no way, even if it's successful, we pay our bills. So I think that they just had that issue. But I think that's why executives at these game companies, whether it's EA or Ubisoft or any Microsoft Studios, ZeniMax, Bethesda Softworks, id like no matter where you look, there's a ton of excitement within executives' offices for AI, for new tool sets coming from Unreal Engine or whatever else that should streamline the workflows and streamline the development process. If they don't have to employ 50 software engineers to design their own engine, great. That's a savings in budget right there. We don't need to build our own engine. We can just license it for cheaper from some other company. Great. That saves money. Hopefully it also leads to more efficiency because everybody knows the tools and stuff. That could lead to reduced budgets and quicker turnaround times and stuff. So that could be one way of doing it. The AI stuff, like these executives are eating it up. The idea that you could have, instead of having to have like a team of writers, you just have AI write the script of the game for you, which of course sounds horrible. But to an executive sitting in their office on the 52nd floor of a high rise, you can understand why they would think that's the solution to our problems. So I think that there is not an easy solution. But the solution they will be chasing is to try and find ways to increase efficiency. I think you'll see studios really trying to pump out games built on sort of an algorithmic way. So you'll have a lot more radiant quest lines. You'll probably have less handcrafted stuff, except for some very specific studios that are really good at it. And ideally, like I think the best thing for the industry would be tighter scope. You know, instead of trying to do something where every game is 50 hours long, maybe let's re-normalize the idea of a 15-hour game. That's okay. That's still a solid game. We don't need everything to be 40, 50, 60, 70 hours, okay? It's all right to have a solid 15-hour experience. But when you introduce like an open world, when you introduce all this other stuff, people start to expect the much longer run times. And if you don't achieve that, then it feels really, really bad. So I think it's a weird time in the industry because we're at this sort of crossroads of what we're doing right now does not work for the AAA development scene, and they've got to do something else. And what that is remains to be seen. I think most likely it's going to be a lot more implementation of AI, a lot of downsizing of teams. I think you're going to see games start to get probably smaller and simpler. There will be less games trying to do everything all at once, less big open world games. And you're already seeing that to a certain extent with some games, like the new Mafia game is expected. They said it's not going to be open world. It's going to be linear. That was a franchise that previously pushed for that open world, and they backed off that for this upcoming game because they're like, yeah, it's too developmentally intensive, it's too expensive, it's too time consuming. And even then, players don't tend to love it that much because it's really hard to do an open world really well. So we're just not going to bother trying, and we're going to focus our efforts elsewhere. I think you're going to see a lot of stuff like that. There will be some growing pains because I do think some people are going to be like, no, I want my games longer. I want them big. I want them juicy. I want them dummy thick. Maybe we get there, but I think there's going to be a lot of games that are much smaller than people expect.